Chapter 2 from The Dragon's Child by Jenny Nimmo. Strangers from the Sea. When he woke up, the dragon's child was so weary his mother didn't have the heart to make him practice flying again. Today you must rest, she said. You're obviously too tired to try flying. The colony will have to leave without us. Perhaps tomorrow you'll be able to fly. Now go and lie in the sun or roll in the sea. The salt water will heal your bruises. They sat together on the beach while the other dragons began to make ready for the long journey north. The noise was deafening. Young dragons shrieked with excitement. Teenagers argued. Fathers stormed over the cliffs, barking out orders, while mothers whirled about, calling their children and calming the elderly. As the dragon's child gazed around at the commotion, his mother nudged him gently and said, "Your father's coming this way." A tremor rippled over the sand as the great dragon approached. The little dragon's tender spines prickled with alarm. "Don't show your fear," his mother whispered. "Prince Kai looks for spirit and determination in his children." So the little dragon stood as tall as he could and squinted up into Prince Kai's golden eyes. Even though they were so far above him, they were almost out of sight. "I've come to give my youngest child courage before the long flight," boomed Prince Kai. The mother dragon coughed and said, "Actually, we'll be traveling tomorrow, dear, or the day after." "How is that?" Prince Kai demanded. Before his mother could explain, the little dragon piped up, "I can't fly yet." "I see." The huge dragon's eyebrows shot up, and he stared thoughtfully at his smallest child. "You realize I have to go today. I am the leader. I can't alter my plans just for you." "I understand," said the dragon's child in a steady voice. His mother felt proud of him. "Before you go, my dear," she said to Prince Kai, "how about giving our child a name? I just can't think of one." Snorted the big dragon, and for several seconds he studied his child very carefully. "Dando," he declared at last. "Dando?" echoed the mother dragon. "But that was an emperor's name. Dando the fearless, the most excellent, the incomparable." "And I can't even fly," the child reminded his father. "I don't deserve such a splendid name." "Then earn it," boomed the big dragon, and he wheeled around, his great tail sweeping a pile of sand into the air and letting it fall in a golden shower all over his youngest child. Achoo! Will!" sneezed the little dragon. Prince Kai looked over his scaly shoulder. "Fly soon, my son," he called, "because we're leaving this land for good. These are troubled times, and we're never coming back." The other dragons were by now assembled on the cliff top. As soon as Prince Kai joined them, they rose in the air and soared over the ocean. Their great wings fanned the waves into towers of spray, and as they flew higher and higher, it seemed as though the clouds were swallowing a mighty fishtail, a fishtail that had a tiny bite taken out of it, the place where the dragon and her child should have been. And the little dragon felt a stab of dread when he saw the empty cliffs and heard nothing but silence in the air. For a great many birds had traveled north with the dragons, and it seemed such a lonely place without the comforting chorus of musical voices. But the orphan bird had stayed behind, and that night, while the dragon and her child slept, she watched the moonlit ocean from her roost above the cave, and she saw a dark shadow slide closer over the water, taking the shape of a long, hollow tree. And she saw startlingly pale clouds billow out above the tree, and the movement of creatures inside it. The bird eyed the strange craft with dismay, but she managed to keep her fear to herself until dawn, when all at once she opened her beak and let out a shrill call of alarm. "Strangers on the sea!" she cried. "Strangers on the sea!" The dragon and her child woke up and rushed out onto the sand. "What is it?" cried the little dragon when he saw the billowing sails and the dark hull crashing through the surf. "Humans," said his mother in a voice that rumbled with agitation. "What are they?" "As bad as Doggins, if not worse," she said. "You will have to fly now, child. There is no other way." She tore across the sand with her child shambling after her, and when they rounded an outcrop of weeds-covered rocks, she said, "Here, you must practice out of sight until you can fly." The dragon's child leapt and tumbled. He willed strength into his feeble wings. He told himself to fly, soar, lift, swing, and once he found himself skimming the ground, almost airborne. Once he even bounced as high as his mother's nose, but he couldn't fly. His mother began to panic. "What can I do?" she thought. She hummed to herself, trying to cover her agitation. She couldn't desert her child. But suppose he never learned to fly? And then it came to her. Once a mother dragon had carried her child on the long migration, but the child had been smaller than this one. Would it be safe? I'll have to carry you, she said rather breathlessly. Carry? Piped her child. How? In your mouth? In your claws? No, no, she said, on my back. But you must hold fast to my spines and don't let go, whatever happens. This is a dangerous thing to attempt. Are you ready? 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 Her child squeaked nervously. I suppose I am. I suppose it's now or never. Now or never, said his mother, as she knelt on the sand while her child tried to climb onto her back. It wasn't easy. Her scales were hard and shiny, and her spines cut into the soft pads of his feet. As her great body lifted into the air, the little dragon's stomach lurched. The cold wind thundered in his skull and froze his nose and ears. He closed his eyes and clung on tight, but slowly, slowly, his mother's spine slipped out of his grasp. I can't hold on, he cried, but the wind smothered his voice. Mother, I'm falling, he screamed, but his mother couldn't feel the small, tumbling body through her thick, shiny scales. With a final squeal, the dragon's child slid from his mother's back and fell earthward through the wind, and the beat of her great wings drowned his fading calls. Mother! Mother! We're flying home, she thought, unaware that her child was gone.